Welcome into Illini Drive. I'm your host, Josh Pietsch, joined alongside this time by Nithin Reddy.
Nithin. So close.
I said Nithin.
You said Nathan.
Nithin Reddy.
Yeah, you said Nathan.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, I really thought I said.
Josh.
Thought I said Nithin. It's okay. I'm sorry about that.
Everyone
Nithin Reddy. The usual Tuesday cruise, Gabby and I. She couldn't make it today. But Nithin, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Excited to be on here. I've been with Brandon usually for Monday, Wednesday. Gabby, she filled in once. So Josh, this is our first time together since last year.
Yeah, since March. I think we were probably on the last show together before all the COVID stuff happened. We got sent home, but so yeah, we're used to each other a little bit. We've been doing it for a little bit together. So we're going to start today with a little bit of Illinois basketball news. They were originally going to play in the Emerald Coast Classic in November. That got canceled due to COVID. And then yesterday, John Rothstein reported on Twitter that Illinois will host its own MTE in Champaign from November 25th to 27th. It'll feature 4 teams in a 3-game round-robin format. So a little bit different. I don't think that Illinois has hosted its own little tournament in 30-some years. So it's going to be a little different. We don't know who they're playing yet, but Nithin, what do you think of this idea?
I love the idea. I mean, it'll help for a bunch of different reasons. One, it gets Illinois some great experience, which they're going to need for this upcoming season because we're anticipating them having a great year with the talent they're bringing back. And also, I think it helps a lot with recruiting because we saw in the past how having the state tournament in Champaign was a huge deal for recruits because you got to get a feel for the university and a feel for what it's like playing in a big game at Illinois. So I think this atmosphere just only helps that because providing this tournament, these tournament experiences helps with your young guys, but also helps when you bring in recruits to see what the Illinois experience is like.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you about the young guys because this should be the first 3 games that they play all year, I believe. This is going to start off their season. So, like I said, we don't know who they're going to play yet, but usually the tournament would be at home. And if the Emerald Coast Classic wouldn't have gotten canceled, the players would have been, like Adam Miller, Andre Curbelo, would have been on a national stage for their very first games in college. So maybe this will be on a national stage. We don't know who they're playing yet. Could be on Big Ten Network, could be on ESPN. We don't know. But at least they'll be home at the State Farm Center, which I think is pretty huge for them.
Do we have any more details besides that yet?
We don't. It's just 25th through 27th. No idea about fans. No idea about who's playing. They didn't give us anything besides the fact that they're actually hosting something.
Okay, yeah, I saw the Rothstein tweet. It is pretty vague, but it's nice that we know that there's at least going to be some non-conference play because that was a question a lot of Illini fans had coming into the season. And with high hopes, I mean, you want to have them play as many national games as possible. Yeah,
I know that the home series against Arizona, they played it last year in Arizona. Illinois pretty much got killed in that game after the first half, and our home game this year got postponed for probably next year, something like that. I don't think we know for sure. Maybe we do, but it's definitely not getting played this year. And then, like we said, the Emerald Coast Classic got canceled too. So it's important to have non-conference games. Something that I thought they could do, and I'm not 100% sure about any scheduling, but just an idea that I know Illinois State basketball fans have had for a while, is doing something like Bradley, Loyola, Illinois State, and Illinois. Because if you think about it, not including Northwestern, those are the 4 best teams in the state of Illinois. They barely get to play each other besides Bradley and Loyola. And I think it would be a pretty good test to see, the Power 5 Division I Illinois team go against a couple of tournament teams in Bradley and Loyola over the past few years.
Yeah, and I know they do something similar in Philly where they get all of the local teams to play each other. And I think that's really cool. Obviously, Illinois is expected to be the best team year in, year out with that group, but it's nice to have that local sort of rivalry, even though it may not be as competitive as you might hope for some of those games.
Yeah, I think that'd be really fun. Obviously, in football this year, Illinois was supposed to play Illinois State.
Oh, that would have been good.
And that got postponed to 2028. That confuses me.
Well, I mean, I understand it, but it just sounds terrible. Because these football schedules just come out years in advance with scheduling wise. And I know Illinois is going to play Missouri a few times. I think they have a 4-game series or something like that coming up. So scheduling becomes hard. But yeah, it is strange to hear 2028 when you have to postpone one game 8 years later.
Yeah, I was going to say you and I are going to be like 27, 28 years old when they finally play each other. That's good. And I'm sure that you and I will both be Illinois fans, obviously having graduated, hopefully. But we're students here. We want to see them play our in-state rival. Obviously, no one at Illinois loves people at Illinois State and vice versa. So I don't know. I thought, and it would have been a Friday night game under the lights, right?
Yeah.
I think that would have been really fun.
That would have been fun. And even though you probably wouldn't have seen a huge Illinois State crowd there, you still would have gotten the Illinois crowd up really excited.
Definitely. For that game. I think they would have done something like the Nebraska game where they gave away the free student tickets to try and pack the stadium. And of course, then in the new schedule, not the newest one, but the second one, we were supposed to have the first game of college football against Ohio State under the lights, and that got screwed over too.
Oh my God, it's been a tough year for sports.
It has,
and I guess life in general. But some of these things happening to Illinois, it's like, could we push it back a year? No, all right, fine.
Yeah, I know it kind of stinks. But luckily, like we said, we do. Barring something major happening, we are going to get to see this little tournament at Illinois. Like I said, maybe no fans, but if they don't do the Illinois State Loyola Bradley thing that I was thinking of, we could see some pretty good teams in there. I mean, what if they went across, because Illinois is a top 5 team this year, so people are going to want to play them. What if they got like a good team from the West Coast, like UCLA, or a good team like Florida, who they were supposed to play in the Emerald Coast Classic? Like, could you see a couple of teams, some pretty major teams going in?
Yeah, it could be sort of like a similar experience to the Champions Classic that usually happens at the United Center.
Yeah.
And you just bring it down to Illinois. I mean, I think it's a little harder because teams aren't going to want to play, even though it's not considered a road game. It will be a road game for a Villanova or a Baylor or UCLA, USC, Oregon. Like any team that has to travel long distance is going to be a road game, which no one wants to do. I mean, it's the reason why Coach K doesn't play any true road games.
Right.
It's the reason why a lot of these top teams don't want to go outside of their home base unless it's for a big tournament like the Maui Invitational or the Battle of Atlantis. Like some of these huge ones they'll go for. But in general, if you can save for road games in conference, these teams generally do that.
I mean, it's kind of like the Alabama football game. Nick Saban won't go up to Indianapolis to play in Michigan or in Ohio State, but he'll go to Atlanta to play Duke every single year, something like that. Yeah, no, it makes sense. And obviously, Illinois, fans or no fans, would have a little bit of that home court advantage. And like we said, to start this segment, that's going to be really good for Adam Miller, Andre Curbelo, and even, Kofi and Io, just to, dip their feet into the another new year of college basketball, get to playing again. And obviously they like the State Farm Center. And it's definitely going to be different for them, though. I wonder if college basketball is going to be a little bit different without the fans, because we packed the stadium last year. I mean, what was it? Our last 8 games were sold out or something?
I think it was, only 2 conference games weren't sold out.
I think so.
It was a really small number. And the point was because this team was a ranked team, and that was the first time in years that Illinois had a ranked season. And now it looks like if they get out of the rankings, it's a disappointment this year.
Yeah.
You're expecting a top 10, top 5 team in the country coming back with arguably the best player in the country, potentially in Io.
Yeah.
It would have been really fun to see fans, but you got to live with what you got.
Yeah, I mean, selfishly, I would have loved to go into the stadium, get the little bowl seats or whatever the Orange Crush seats.
Where do you sit when you're at Orange Crush games?
I like to go behind the benches, right in back, like what you can see on TV. But I remember for the Iowa game, I went behind the hoop with everyone. So the Kofi block on Luka Garza was right in front of me, and that was a cool angle too. And you're surprisingly really close to the floor. You don't even realize it until you're there. Yeah. That's also where I was for Trent Frazier's 3/4 of the court heave against Rutgers. Nice. Remember that one? Yeah. So I was there for a couple of times, but I don't know. I like both of them pretty much the same. Doesn't really matter as much. When you're up top, one game I think it was for Michigan State when, we had the big comeback that we ended up blowing. It was fun up there. It's just not the same, though. Yeah, because you have all the students down there.
It's like with any college sports experience. You got to be with the students because they're the ones invested the most, and they're the ones that are craziest about the sport. I think I prefer behind the bench. I try to go as close to center just because you have a better view. It's crazy, right, how close you can get during these games, and it's one of the great things about being a college sports fan.
See, that's why I think that in football, it's a very big stadium. You're still going to have the family members there, and you're going to have like the noise generated. I'm not sure how much noise they're going to be able to generate in the State Farm Center. Like, I think that it's going to take a lot more getting used to in basketball than it is football for the crowd noise, because these players feed off of fans' energies. Like you said, why does Coach K not like playing true road games? Because he loves when an RJ Barrett or a Zion Williamson just feeds into that crowd energy and they play like there's no tomorrow. So I think it's going to be a little different.
Yeah, and it's also this sort of dome environment that you see a different experience, where in an open environment that you'll see at Memorial Stadium, I agree with you that fans won't be missed as much, but when it's closed, it really feels like no one's there.
Yeah.
And that you're just playing pickup basketball in front of no fans, in front of like 20 people. And it's a weird experience for guys that have been playing at big stages their whole life, because even Adam Miller in high school, every game he's playing at Morgan Park, they're getting sold out. There's going to be 1,000 to 2,000 people there. Same with Andre Curbelo. And then you got Io, Trent, Kofi, Georgie, all these guys that have been here and experienced the atmosphere at State Farm Center. It's going to take a lot of adjusting.
And obviously, you can't take away talent with noise, right? But like the momentum is something that we always talk about, especially in a sport like basketball. So yeah, no, it'll definitely be interesting this year. All right, we're going to take a little break. When we come back, we're going to recap this week's game of football. That's next on Illini Drive. Welcome back to Illini Drive. Another pretty good week of NFL football is week 4. We've only got 5 or 6 undefeated teams left now. One of the teams that is no longer undefeated is the team that Nithin and I root for, the Bears. Nithin, lay it on me.
Me and Brendan, I mean, we already were sobbing basically talking about that game. It's like you go from Mitch Trubisky to Nick Foles and you think this is going to be a huge upgrade, and then it's just pure disappointment with how Foles was unable to really get any drive going. And the last drive, I don't even consider it really worth mentioning. It's just because they're playing prevent defense and trying to keep everything in front of them that the Colts allowed a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, his QBR was 42.5.
Yeah,
that is not good. 249 yards, a touchdown, an interception. I will give Foles this. The interception wasn't his fault. Anthony Miller's got to hang on to that one.
Well, it was like half his fault, I feel like, because it wasn't a great throw, but it definitely shouldn't have been picked.
Definitely could have scored on that drive, though. That could have changed all the momentum. So that one was tough, but unfortunately, an old Phillip Rivers, who only threw for 190 yards, clearly outplayed Nick Foles.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say Phillip Rivers played that well. It's just they established the run.
Exactly.
And they knew their defense was going to take care of the job, which is exactly what happened.
Yeah, they only scored one touchdown. And then 4 field goals, because do they have the Georgia kicker?
Yeah. Oh my! What do you think about Rodrigo Blankenship? Because I do not like him.
You don't like him?
No, he annoys me every time. Every time I saw him at Georgia, he was so annoying because he wears those goggles and gets that cult following. But he's like screaming every time he kicks a field goal, even if it's like a 30-yarder.
So like I just told you, very anti-Alabama. I'm not an Alabama fan. So when they beat them in the national championship, remember when Tua's first game? Blankenship made like the 50-yard field goal to send it to overtime, right? So I started loving the dude immediately.
Okay.
Listen, you know what? I credit him. He's clearly a good kicker, has a lot of skill. He's kind of the reason that they beat us. So, yeah, I'm very disappointed. It was good to see, just from a Big Ten standpoint, Jonathan Taylor being able to break away and get some nice carries. He averaged 4 yards a carry, so that was pretty good for him. Didn't score a touchdown, but yeah, I mean, tough time to be a Bears fan. We're 3-1. It feels like we're 1-3.
I know, it's so strange. I've never felt this way about a team with a 750 winning percentage. It seems like we should be happy, but we all as Bear fans put it in context. It's 3 wins where you easily could be 1-3 or 0-4, and that's never a great feeling. I mean, the Lions game, the Falcons game, we shouldn't have won. It's pretty clear on that. And then you feel like you get some positive momentum going, and it's all taken back. And going into this week, this feels like this could be like the Bears' death sentence, honestly, if it's a bad loss to the Buccaneers. And we're only 4 weeks in, and 3-1, which is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, 3-1 as a Bears fan, like we weren't we weren't even 2-0 since like 2013. Yeah. We get to 3-0 with somehow coming back and beating the Falcons, and then we lose what, in my eyes, was our last winnable game, reasonable winning game for at least a couple weeks. You could argue at Carolina, but I am actually pretty high on Teddy Bridgewater. I like Carolina, so it just really feels like a shot to the gut because, like you said, now we have this Buccaneers team coming in Thursday night, short rest. Tom Brady's built to beat the Bears. I don't think he's ever lost to us in his career.
Yeah, I think it is a small sample size, though. It's probably like 4 games.
Yeah.
But I do agree that this Buccaneers offense, as horrible as they looked week 1, they've looked great since then. Against a really good Chargers defense, they completely tore them apart in the second half. I'm very nervous because this Bears defense is not what it was in 2018. It's good, but it's just slightly above average, in my opinion.
I think it's a little bit better than slightly above average. I think the lack of offense makes us get a little bit more frustrated with the defense. I'd say it's a top 10 defense. But like you said, either way, it's not the same as 2018. The offense, I have no idea what's going on there. We're trying to run up the middle with Cordell Patterson. Matt Nagy either looks way too conservative with his play calling or way too out there. He won't open it up even for Nick Foles, who's supposed to be able to read a defense better.
That's a concern because Nick Foles is not only should he be able to read a defense, but he's also able to throw a really great deep ball. And we saw it with that TD to Allen Robinson. Granted, like they're playing soft coverage, but the throw was where Allen Robinson could only get it, which is exactly what you need. And it's with these weapons, you want him taking shots, more shots than he has at least last week.
Yeah, no. Disappointing for the Bears. Barring a miracle, they'll be 3-2 going into a game at Carolina. Fans will probably look at that one as a make or break for the season, I think, assuming we do not beat Tampa Bay. Other football news, Joe Burrow got his first win. Bengals 33-25 over the Jaguars. He threw for over 300 yards. What do you think of Joe Burrow so far?
Oh, I've really liked Joe Burrow. I mean, his losses haven't been terrible. The Browns loss doesn't look as bad now that we've seen the Browns actually play pretty well lately.
They played him close, too.
Yeah, and week 1 against the Chargers, it's his first game as a rookie, so there's going to be some nerves, but he led them to a game-tying drive where their kicker misses an easy gimme field goal, so that's just rough. And then the Eagles, they tie in a weird game. I like what I've seen from Joe Burrow. I think he's just brought what he played like in college to the NFL, which is great and which is exactly what you want to see from the number 1 overall pick. What do you think about him?
Well, and I also think that he's doing with very few skill positions. Like Joe Mixon, he's pretty good. All right, you got a running back. His receivers are not good. His best receiver is maybe Tyler Boyd, right? Is that his name? Boyd. And then AJ Green, but he's coming off an injury. Not a great O-line.
The O-line's my biggest worry because he's just getting hit around. You saw that in that Eagles game.
I can't believe he came back. I thought he was gone for.
Same. I mean, it's staggering the amount of hits he's taking, and it worries me because he's a quote-unquote tough quarterback that's going to stay in and take the hits similar to Deshaun Watson or Ben Roethlisberger, which he's not the biggest guy in the world. So I do have worries that he might get injured and have to sit out a few weeks, or it might hurt his future.
Yeah, he's thrown for over 300 yards in 3 of his first 4 games. He's not getting many touchdowns. Like his line this game was 300 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. But 300 yards for any rookie, I think, is pretty good. And obviously, this team isn't going to be great. They're 1-2-1, so they're probably going to get a high draft pick. Improve that O-line, maybe get another receiver in there. I think their defense is okay. They're definitely better than the Cowboys. They didn't give up as many points to the Browns, so I don't know. I hope for the best for Joe Burrow. Had a fantastic time watching him in college. It would be great to see him succeed in the NFL, I think.
Speaking of the Cowboys, the NFC East, the strangest, worst, most confusing division in the NFL and in recent NFL history.
Yeah. Ever since the Eagles went to the Super Bowl.
Completely downhill.
Terrible. The Cowboys are 1-3. I'm pretty sure the Eagles are 1-2-1 and they're winning the division.
They are.
How does that happen?
It's strange that you tie a game to the Bengals where you have a chance to take a deep field goal with almost no time left, and you punt it away. And that seems like a good decision maybe now because you're leading the division. It's just such poor play. I mean, the Washington football team is still in it, which
Yeah.
is crazy. New York Giants have been terrible, and they're a game back, realistically. I don't understand this NFC East.
I don't understand it either. It's like you said, the weirdest, most confusing division in football. You have the Cowboys; they're 1-2 going against a 2-1 Browns team at home. I thought it was a lock. I could have locked that game for a pick. I don't bet on sports, but I thought it could have been a lock. They lost by 11. They gave up 49 points to Baker Mayfield.
That's not even how it should be looked at. They were down 41-14, and they almost made an improbable comeback.
Again.
Yeah, but this defense is horrible for the Cowboys. It gave up, 39 to the Falcons, and now 49 to the Browns, which really confuses me.
49 points. I mean, but like you look at the offense, right? Dak Prescott, 502 yards, 4 touchdowns. You have an awesome running back in Zeke. You have this incredible wide receiver core. You have Amari Cooper. You have CeeDee Lamb, Marvin Gallup. But the defense is just so bad. They let Robert Quinn go, who's now with the Bears, he's not really doing anything, but he's trying to fit into that defense. Like, I just don't understand it from the Cowboys' standpoint. This defense is so bad.
It makes sense because they invested so much money in that offense, which they have for years. They're not going to have the ability to pay all those defensive guys, and they haven't really drafted a ton of defensive players. I mean, I guess we shouldn't be too surprised, but it's the Cowboys. Like, you just don't expect to see this horrible of a defensive performance week in and week out. Besides that Rams game, they've allowed 38, 39, and 49, which is insane.
But yeah, that's awful. Cowboys have got their own problems. Would be shocked if they came back and won the division, but
it's the NFC East.
It's the NFC East, exactly. They're probably only game or two back somehow. Any other games you watched this week that you liked watching, thought were interesting?
I thought Cardinals-Panthers was really interesting just because I was invested as a fantasy football player because I had Kyler Murray on my team. And you look at his stat line, and it's one of like the worst stat lines for a good fantasy performance.
Yeah.
Because he puts up over 20, but he throws for, I think, like 130 yards on 30 attempts. Yeah, 130 yards, 3 TDs, 31 attempts. It's one of the weirdest things you'll ever see. I also just thought the whole noon slate was really great this week. There were a lot of close games, and it was a really fun weekend to watch football.
Yeah, I agree. How about the Texans, 0-4?
Good thing they fired Bill O'Brien.
Bill O'Brien's gone.
It's about time. I mean, he should have been fired probably 2 years ago.
Yeah.
He makes that DeAndre Hopkins trade, and I don't understand what they were thinking with keeping him on, and not only doing that, but promoting him to general manager last year.
I have no idea what they were thinking there. The DeAndre Hopkins ones, all the stuff that he said to him, comparing him to you-know-who, like that still baffles me. And now they're 0-4. They lost at home to a not very good Vikings team.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins, I mean, I guess he played fine, but that's not the type of guy you're looking for to lead you in a team. But they beat the Texans in Houston, so good job to them. Josh Allen and the Bills still undefeated.
Did you see this coming? Because I didn't at all, especially this offensive explosion that the Bills have had.
So, Nithin, I don't think he knows about me. My favorite football player in the league is Josh Allen.
Okay.
When he was coming out of Wyoming, I 100%, and I will stand by it, thought he should have been the number 1 pick.
Okay.
So when the Bills moved up to take him, I was like, well, I guess I'm a Bills fan for a little bit. And now it's coming. Did I expect it? Not at all. Yeah. I benched him on both of my fantasy teams for Drew Brees and Deshaun Watson up until this past week where I started him in both, and he outplayed him. That's your dark horse MVP right there, I think, Josh Allen.
That is, and I'm actually in the opposite sort of mindset as you, where I was not a Josh Allen fan. I saw so many Jay Cutler isms with him that he has a great arm, but also has terrible decision making and sometimes lacks accuracy. But he's been phenomenal. It's the introduction of Stephon Diggs has been huge for this offense that's exploding. Even though the defense has had its struggles, especially in that Rams game, they're doing a great job offensively, and they're able to beat great teams.
Completely agree. Josh Allen was what Mitchell Trubisky wishes he could be. And then last night, Chiefs 26-10 over the Patriots. Very low scoring at halftime, 6-3. Mahomes ended up throwing for 2 touchdowns, only 236 yards, but he played well. I didn't see the Chiefs struggling that much. Like, I know the Patriots have a good defense, but Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, I was not expecting that.
First 13 drives, no touchdowns in the game. You could have told me that, and I would have never believed it. I mean, obviously the New England defense is good, but they've given up points to other good teams. Seattle scored a bunch of points on them. I expected the Chiefs to put up 30 plus. Well, I mean, I guess you expect that every week. But they did a good job in the first half. That quarterback situation is going to be very, very interesting with Cam Newton out for who knows how long. Probably going to miss at least another game.
Yeah.
Brian Hoyer looked horrible. Stidham had his moments, but he didn't look good either.
Stidham, I think, is who they're going to go with in the next game. You're right. The Patriots definitely have problems of their own. All right, short little break here. When we come back, we're going to talk about NBA Finals. We got Game 4 tonight. That's next on Illini Drive. Welcome back to Illini Drive. All right, tonight at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time is Game 4 of the NBA Finals. Bam is expected to play. Goran Dragic is going to warm up and see if he can play. Either way, I'm very excited to see what Jimmy Butler is going to do tonight. Yeah. Nithin, how are you feeling about it?
I feel the exact same way. I mean, after the way he guarded LeBron in Game 3, even though LeBron shot well, he really looked stifled. I hope they continue with having Jimmy guard him basically the entire game. What do you think of them going from that zone look in Games 1 and 2 to a more man-to-man approach throughout it? Because I thought it was a smart decision.
Yeah, I definitely loved it, and I noticed it as well. And something that I noticed, I think it was in the third quarter when they showed the rebounding stat, is that the Heat were way up on their rebounds, and then Jimmy Butler got interviewed right after the game, and he got asked what changed for Game 3, and he said the emphasis on rebounding is what really put them over the edge because AD, Dwight Howard, they were killing them on the offensive glass, but you're right, this time they had that more of that man-to-man coverage. They boxed out and got their rebounds, and that's just another reason, obviously along with Jimmy's 40-point triple-double, which we'll get to in a second, that they could come away in Game 3.
I totally agree. I mean, rebounding is an issue for this team, especially without Bam. They're really wing-dependent with guys like Jimmy, Jay Crowder, Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero. They have a lot of players that you like to see, but it hurts when you're going up against the Dwight Howards, JaVale McGee's, Anthony Davises of the world. Even LeBron's going to crash the boards in these games, and it's hard to box out all those guys in a zone. Yeah. The man-to-man approach was vital for them. I'm interested if they're going to try to go with some more two big looks because they haven't had that opportunity yet, and they might be able to now with having Bam back. Kelly Olynyk, and of course, Illinois alum, Myers Leonard.
Yeah, Myers Leonard starting. He's getting, I know that he's only playing probably less than 10 minutes, but he's scoring when he's in. Obviously, the dude can't play any defense, but it's fun to see him in from the Illini. Illinois doesn't claim him. Kendrick Nunn scored some garbage points in Game 1, even played a little bit in Game 3 and had some big minutes, so good for the Illini guys. But yeah, I mean, after Game 1, which was not close at all, the Heat lose Bam, the Heat lose Dragic. I thought to myself, all right, like, that's it. Series is over. Yeah. Game 2 is a little closer. And then Game 3, they come out and win in a phenomenal game, by the way. It was fun to watch from the start to the finish. So I really think that with Bam back, I think that he's going to adjust. I think that the key tonight is going to be shutting down AD because he did not play as well as he usually does in Game 3. I think that he's going to be angry. LeBron, who's going to bet on LeBron losing 2 games in a row? So Miami, underdogs tonight, but really could come out and grab a win.
Yeah, and speaking of AD, he only took 9 shots in the previous game, which really, really less than his normal amount. I mean, you expect them to feed him a little more. They're trying to double him a lot, and it's very noticeable. I figure, like you, they're going to try to go a little bit more with AD. I'm interested if Jay Crowder is still going to be the matchup on him, or if they're going to put maybe more Bam and try to get Jay Crowder guarding like a Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee. But that also is a whole nother issue with, as you brought up, rebounding.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that Eric Spoelstra is a really smart guy. I think that he might experiment a little bit in the first and adjust for the second, especially with Bam coming back. But like we said, they figured it out in Game 3, and Bam only makes you stronger. So, yeah, I know. I think it's going to be really interesting. And back to our Anthony Davis point, he did not play well in Game 3.
Nope.
They lost Game 3. LeBron had his best game in Game 3. They didn't win. They didn't. Well, okay, maybe. LeBron still played pretty well. He definitely outplayed AD.
I wouldn't say it was his best game. I don't even think it was his second best game.
You think it was his third best game? Maybe I misread that.
Yeah, Game 2, he puts up 33 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists. More importantly, 0 turnovers.
6 turnovers last game at least.
8 turnovers.
8. So maybe I just meant he outplayed AD for the first time. I guess that I should correct myself and say that. But LeBron, second best player ever, greatest player in the NBA right now. All credit to him. If the Lakers win this series right now, I think that an MVP is leaning towards AD. Because in my opinion right now, if AD goes, the Lakers go. And he started scoring in those little stretches where they brought it back a little bit, where LeBron, I thought when they were coming back, LeBron tried to hit the threes in the end. He couldn't get him. He tried driving once, he couldn't get it. He had a couple turnovers and travels. For some reason, I just feel like right now, if the Lakers do pull this off, if things have gone the way they have, I think AD would get the award.
Okay, that's interesting. I think it's really close at this point. If you look at their numbers, they're pretty similar, especially scoring-wise. I don't necessarily disagree with you. I just think in the long run, LeBron is going to be the MVP. He's going to have those moments where he just takes over a game down the stretch and probably just makes huge clutch buckets, which we've seen throughout his entire career. I have trouble thinking that in a serious, close game, they're going to go to AD down the stretch. Because this is still LeBron's team. Let
me ask you this. In game 2, when it was actually pretty close in the third quarter and at the end, who was the one getting the buckets?
Yeah, that was AD.
It was AD.
But that was the third quarter. I'm talking about the last 4 minutes.
True, but I think it was maybe AD scoring in a little closer moments. Okay. I'm not sure. I just think that if you look at the stats from the games that they're winning, it might be in AD's favor right now. Do I think it's going to go to LeBron? Of course I do. Okay. He's the king. I think that the whole Kobe thing, I definitely think LeBron will get it. But part of me thinks Anthony Davis is a little bit closer in the running than people might think.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. Right now, it feels more like there's a co-MVP than there is a singular MVP. This feels like the closest race for a finals MVP in LeBron's runs. I mean, the Dwayne Wade season, the Dwayne Wade Chris Bosh first one, it was closer, but no, LeBron was the MVP for that. 2013, LeBron was definitely the MVP. With
that one was obvious.
Yeah, that Game 7 performance. And then 2016 was another clear one. Granted, Kyrie Irving was phenomenal in that series, and he hit a huge clutch three over Steph that basically won that series. But everyone remembers LeBron's block for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. And no, I think that I definitely agree with you. But hey, Nithin, there's you and I here talking about who's going to win MVP for the Lakers, when the Heat could very well come back and win this series themselves.
They could, but if they do that, they got to win today. I mean,
they have to win today.
This is a must-win game. You can't go down 3-1 against LeBron. If it's 2-2, I'm interested, especially if Jimmy can maybe not replicate, because I don't know if he could replicate that game. It's probably the best game he's ever played in his life, even though he said it was his best game ever was when he was 17 playing against 45-year-olds. That's just Jimmy being Jimmy and saying some hyperbole. I think he's got to have like 30 points, play great defense on LeBron. Bam, he's got to be big. Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, those two have to finally step up because really in the first 3 quarters of each game, they haven't done much. They were big down the stretch though, which
especially Tyler Hero yesterday or 2 days ago.
Yeah, you saw that mean mug. Oh yeah.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler, definitely very likable. Something I wanted to ask you about right before we finish up here. We're going to get done a little early today, but what do you think of LeBron just walking off the floor and leaving his team be and not really checking out, just kind of going back to the locker room before the game even ended?
So I want to preface this by saying I didn't actually see that post-game interview. I saw it was going through Instagram, but I didn't actually listen to it. I was shocked because that's not what LeBron is built as, the teammate, the leader that he is. He's the one that's supposed to be picking these guys up when they're down. He's not supposed to be the guy that can't wait 0.7 seconds for the Lakers to inbound the pass, where they have to sub someone in so LeBron can walk off the court by himself. It felt like a selfish move, and it felt like something you just don't expect at all from LeBron.
Yeah, I mean, if he wants to give this GOAT mentality, like we've seen this a little bit from LeBron before, like in the finals, how he's been like walking back on defense and stuff, and now how he's leaving the locker room early. I mean, I know that we're obviously not trying to get into a GOAT conversation here, but Jordan never did that. Like, you don't leave your team hanging like that. I don't know. I just think that LeBron needs to be better. He needs to show a little bit more leadership, stay on the floor, and lift his team up. We don't know what's happening in the locker room, but if he wants to win the series, he's got to uplift his team and get a little bit more momentum going, because for as good as he is, his supporting crew isn't the greatest. I think they built it really well around him, but the Lakers are the Lakers.
Yeah, you're going to need great performances from the Alex Caruso's, Danny Greens, and Rondos of the world.
Exactly. All right, so that's going to do it for today's show. Nithin, thanks for being here. Good doing the show. Good doing the show with you.
Absolutely. Hopefully we do it soon.
Yeah, hopefully again. All right, from Nithin and Josh, this has been Illini Drive.